I mean,
chips.
I think for OpenAI, I think they will have to continue to. Obviously, they're going to continue to develop the software, right? But they need the compute capacity. I guess that's the key question. And Eric, this dovetails quite nicely into what we discussed last week around NVIDIA's $3,000 supercomputer, because
Right.
Jensen Huang's initiative of saying, "Hey, I'll put something on your laptop here that'll sit on your laptop and you can process some of these models," is kind of interesting, because I was seeing this week with DeepSeek, I think several people are able to run it on their Mac laptop or MacBook Pro, I believe, and actually run it locally. So, I mean, when that kind of power starts coming to you, like where you can run stuff locally, I think there's a new level of kind of activity that is enabled, and this is borderless in some ways. I mean, this is a bit like the internet, actually, right? A guy sitting in Bangalore, India, or I don't know,
All right, I
in
got the answer. I got the answer.
yeah,
It is not chip development. It is a $500 billion investment for AI data centers. Right.
right,
So they're really looking at,
sure,
building out the infrastructure.
right.
Right. I don't think they're looking at building chips with a chip manufacturer and fab as much as they are just looking at building out capacity to build out the models. Right.
Right, and that is where Oracle comes in, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, from
Right.
a data center standpoint,
Right.
ARM is you need the chips to build out those data centers, right?
No, it's not an ARM play. I don't read anything about ARM because ARM would be if you were going to make a NVIDIA competitor, right? But I don't think they're going to make a GPU competitor. They're just going to
No,
buy.
no,
You're going to buy GPUs from
correct.
NVIDIA,
That's
right?
Oh, from NVIDIA. Well, ARM is
Right.
part of the deal. That's what I read, right? Meaning part of the deal means whatever. I mean, again, Masa is
Yeah.
an investor in ARM, so maybe that's why they are sort of mentioned in there. If NVIDIA had the compute capacity, of course, everybody would buy from NVIDIA, right? Like,
Right.
but
Right.
they're just not able to supply what everybody needs, right? So that's the challenge, right? Otherwise, all of it would be spoken for. So this is to
Yeah.
build data centers, right? Yes.
Right. But
Um,
it's not clear that they're doing a fab to build chips for the data centers as much as they are looking at putting the investment with 100,000 jobs in building out,
I see.
the data centers to be able to run AI models.
I see. I
Right.
see. I see. I see what you're saying. So
Right.
you're saying, hey, most of this 500 billion is actually going to run those data centers, and I know
Right.
that.
Right. And
I
they're
think
talking jobs in the data centers. Right. I mean,
right,
how many
right.
people are going to have working at those? Not let's do what Pat Gelsinger did, which is invest in a fab and try to make a better chip than what NVIDIA makes. Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's the United. I mean, the U.S. government per se. I mean, Oracle I know has pretty close relationship with NVIDIA, for example, right? Like, and so, I mean, of course, yeah. So
Now, I think it's very lightweight and mixed. So I think it's loose enough to find in this announcement that they could probably do anything they wanted.
Yeah, they
right?
want it. Yeah.
With that bill, if they want to make a chip, they could do it. But
They could
it
do
looks like they're
No, it is data center
Right.
infrastructure for sure. Like, I mean, they need the compute. That's the point. Now,
Right.
how that compute comes into being is where the money is going to go, right? So it's not, the idea, of course, is not to build a NVIDIA competitor. I don't think so, right? But it is to make sure that there are enough chips produced, right, to generate the compute capacity needed, right? So how much backward integration do you need is the question, really, right? You start from the data center, but what goes into those data centers, somebody has got to build it, right? If it's not NVIDIA, it's AMD. If it's not AMD, it's ARM, right? Or Broadcom, who knows, right? Like, I mean, somebody's got to, right, provide what is needed in those those data centers, actually. And what's interesting in this angle is there's an analyst today, I think just today, who brought up an interesting point, right? Like, Google has TensorFlow, right, and those tensor chips, right, which I'm sure you know about, Eric. Like, right?
Yeah.
The comment was that there's more than 700 billion, like some number, right, of value that potentially can be unlocked by Google, right, if you were to actually sell these chips and so on and so forth. But from some semi-analyst, Dylan Patel from semi-analyst, I mean, he's a semiconductor analyst. He was saying, I mean, of all the AI capacity today, I mean, maybe Google is already consuming, right, like for 25 to 50% of all AI compute capacity, if you include tensor chips as well. So, any case, I mean, so that there is definitely a hunger for compute. It's a question of who's gonna.
Well, the other thing that was interesting about this Stargate announcement is that they rescinded the Biden orders. as part of the Stargate announcement.
Was that part of the announcement? I thought
Yeah, that
it
was
was a
part-
separate executive order, I thought. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
It might be. They just said they
Yeah.
announced Stargate and
Yes.
that they've rescinded the orders, and everybody's really happy about that, right? So
Right.
Trump basically took a stab at Biden, right, by going like, yeah,
Right.
we're rescinding all the orders that you just implemented in October, and we're announcing Stargate for the investment. So
Right.
maybe it was two separate orders.
Yeah, it was
Doesn't
separate.
say.
It was separate, I think. But
Right.
yeah, again, regulation. Yeah, so I think folks in Silicon Valley certainly do feel like regulation is not necessary. But I do know Sam Altman was proactive in asking Washington to put regulations in place, like 6-8 months ago. So I have no idea. I mean, how it's going to land. But overall, I think stifling innovation is not a good idea. But yeah, what do we have in our hands? We don't really know yet, right? I mean, as a consumer, I can see the power of ChatGPT, for example, or of like text to video to generate uncanny, realistic images of people, right? Like where outright, right? You can so there's tremendous power that you can already see happening, right? Now, question is, yeah, I mean, what if there's a drone attack from a terrorist organization, for example? So those kind of things, I think all of this technology not getting in the wrong hands, I think is a credible question.
Right.
But I don't feel like qualified enough to sort of comment on it in any depth, really. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I do know that it's great to be in the arms race, right? And it's good to have the government be behind you,
Right.
Because I think most of us in Silicon Valley are realizing that this is the future, right?
Right.
This is where the big money is going to go, whether
For
it's
sure.
in robotics, whether it's in vacuum cleaners, whether it's in
Yep.
all kind of thing. The fact that they're getting together and looking at organizing and getting the government behind you, not to have restrictive laws, but to actually just work together, get companies together.
Right.
And if you look at if I do look at China and look at what China does, this is their model. When they talk about building the One Brick Initiative, what is it? Brick Road at the
You
One
mean
Road?
the Silk Road?
Silk Road? No, that's different.
Yellow.
So China has a
I see.
brick initiative, right? That they've had 2029 brick and mortar brick road. One road, I forget the name of it. Right?
Okay.
The China,
Uh-huh.
but it's a national effort to get all the ports between China and Europe and a road, right, to Europe so that they can ship all their goods. But it meant that they were going to have to buy ports, so they've gone through and they've invested in ports.
I see. Oh, I mean, China is big in, like, for example, well, in Southeast Asia, definitely, right? It's neighboring countries, but also in, I believe, in Africa as well, right? So certainly, I mean,
it was called China's Belt and Road Initiative, right?
I see.
The Belt and Road Initiative is just being able to connect China to throughout Europe so that they could move their goods. But it's just going to require $1 trillion investment for them. And it started 10, 12 years ago. They wanted to have it done by 2029 or 2028, right? Where they were going to have, and it was going to give them global competitiveness, right? Because they were going to be able to sell their quantities. It's all about quantities, right? It's just shippable quantities to every part in the globe so that you get volume so that you can keep your price low, right? And so that was like state-run initiative,
right?
A strategic plan that they put in place to make sure that their manufacturers were going to be competitive in a given industry, right? Or in all of the industries.
I don't know if you heard Trump's comment. Trump made some quote unquote unsubstantiated claims, I guess, that China controls the Panama Canal. Well, what do you think of that comment? Yeah.
Well, I don't know about the Panama Canal directly, but I know that they are buying ports and they are trying to control the shipment of goods across the globe. So they're not saying it in a bad way. I'm just saying that their government has to get together and figure it out what they need to buy, where. They're doing that in the African continent as well, right? They're making strategic investments in roads and infrastructure and port access and everything in order to get at raw materials, because Africa has a lot of the continent has a lot of raw materials, and they want to get at raw materials. So they come in, they make $1 billion investments, they make loans, they have a loan program. And so really, if we really look at big projects, right, you
Mhm.
almost need nation states behind you now,
Right.
because the investment is so big, right?
Mm.
And so if you let China get ahead of you on AI, right, and
Yeah.
then on chips and
Yeah.
TSMC, and I forget the Netherlands company that makes the chip manufacturing devices that we've outlawed.
You're talking about ASML.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ASML.
I mean,
Right?
there's
Yeah.
ASML, there's Lam, and there's
Right.
Applied, Applied Materials, right? So
Right.
Applied and Lam are right
Right.
here in the Bay Area.
Right. And
But
so
yeah,
ASML, we've locked out of China
yeah,
because and Trump seems to get this. You need industry to get together, and the government needs to facilitate this and sometimes invest in it.
yeah.
I don't know if the Belt Initiative from China actually required the Chinese government to spend money. I
Mm.
believe so. I think they put money down on it,
Right.
right? Or at least
Right.
low interest loans and things
Right.
like that. So
Yeah.
it is a strategic initiative that governments are going to need to do. And when you start talking about, do nation states control the destiny of AI, my answer is yes, they do. Not right now, but because there's a lot of engineers. There's Sam Altman, there's everybody.
Right.
But the reality is, it's such a huge number now,
Right.
and you need government support for regulations and chips and everything else, and power consumption and data center and permits and everything you need to build that out. You basically need your nation state to give you a leg up.
One example on that actually is nuclear reactors, right? So Sam Altman and Satya, Nadella, they both have mentioned using nuclear reactors for this. So part of this $500 billion deal, I think, is some of it is going to go, towards the nuclear reactor
that you need.
Infrastructure that you need to run those. Power for these data centers. So, in fact, I mean, if you look at the stock prices of some of these guys, it's all dovetailing that even before Trump's election. So there's definitely, expectation that some of these nuclear power reactor providers that either work with defense or commercial, and I think Satya mentioned his earnings call also one particular player. Actually, I forget who it is, but so there is definitely, I agree with you that you need endorsement and backing, and I don't know what analogy we can take from the past, from history. I mean, is it railroads? Is it highways? I mean, AI undoubtedly is strategic. There's no doubt about it, right? Like, as we are looking out into the horizon 5, 10, 20 years down the line.
I think you actually came up with a really good one, which is the Panama Canal. Panama Canal.
Right.
If you look at the amount of dollars we put into building the Panama Canal so that we could save money on shipping.
Right.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Like, oh, you want to ship products around the globe and sell our products to the rest of the world? You have to solve getting them from east to west, right? And so they did. We put, at the time, probably $1 trillion in the canal project in today's money. Yeah, it was very big. Maybe $500 million, but it was a big number.
$500 billion.
Yeah. I think it was 20 million back then, but that was turn of the century where that was a ton of money.
Right.
And then I think several different nations tried to do that and failed, and then America swept in with Teddy Roosevelt and actually finished it up and figured out how to get rid of the mosquito disease that was killing everybody down there. So I think this is obviously not new, but I feel like more and more big product offerings need massive investments that are beyond, I don't want to say socialist, right? Like, because it's, but it's like you need government support in order to put that kind of, because no one company can, amass that kind of money.
I mean, a good example is satellites, actually, right? Until Starlink and others came along, Blue Origin. I mean, satellites have firmly been like the province of, nation states, right? Like launching satellites into space and doing any sort of activity.
Right. Yeah. So I think in a sense, now this is one of the, you can say what you like about politics, and I tend to swing all over the place on politics, but I am an issue voter, right? And I like the idea that we've managed to get somebody that understands how to compete in business, and to make some of these decisions, because I think it is a critical time, right? And it's a critical time in the time of technology, right? Where we are going to have to make these investments in AI, right? Now I can't get my head around it, and maybe Rajesh, you can. Like, what do you do with all that money, to run AI models, right? And then what is this? What's going to come out of the AI models, right? Like, I feel like there's a little quantum computing kind of things going on here, right?
I mean, we should talk about look. I mean, I think the weekly active users on OpenAI currently. I mean, the last number we heard was
where
like
are we at?
I think we are at about half a billion, half a. I mean, like 500,
Wow.
500
500
million users is my
Yeah.
understanding. I
Wow.
think I have that number right. Yeah, 500 million is weekly actives, right? Now, for those folks to run models, right? Like right now, it's just like chat GPT, big deal. Okay. But
Yeah.
like OpenAI just released yesterday what they're calling an operator, right?
Yeah,
And
300
it's like,
million, 300 million active users.
yeah, 300, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, WA, weekly active user. So now, when imagine 300 million people are part of that 300 million, right? Start making reservations, dinner reservations, or aircraft flights and bookings.
Yeah,
and-
because now all we're doing is helping me,
Yes.
write a paragraph here or there.
That's
or
right.
asking
That's
some
right.
simple
So they
questions.
just released the agentic workflow thing yesterday,
Right.
basically, where it's a virtual browser, and you can it's going to do the thing on its own on the screen. I haven't experimented with it because it's like a pro plan or whatever. I don't have that, but it's a $200 a month plan. So
Okay.
so now
And
these
this
guys
is
are
that
moving
they
up
released
market.
their browser now.
They've released a virtual browser
Okay,
that'll do
right.
things on the screen, and you can just watch it, and you can intervene as you need, is my understanding, right? Yeah, that's what it is. So you can see the AI actually working through the browser, like to do a restaurant reservation or
So it's just going to do it.
It's just going to do it, actually.
Right.
So this is the action.
Yeah.
Now these reasoning, let's just call it reasoning models, right? I mean, these are very compute intensive, right? Like, so, and you can even spot it in the time it takes for the model to respond. Even now on ChatGPT, right? Like you use O1, it takes a certain amount of time. You use GPT-4, it comes up with instantly with an answer, right? So just giving you a sense of like, hey, okay, this needs more compute, right? Like that sort of thing. So this is only going to increase, right? So honestly, I mean, and even when you run models on your own, right? Like as a developer, the cost is very significant. The reason you need to raise venture right now, if you're an AI company of any sort, is running these models are expensive, even as an application play, right? So
Right, it gets back down to the Facebook problem, right? Which is, if you look at how we did calculation on how much an average user uses when you load your Facebook page, and Facebook had almost 1 billion active users, right? And then how many computers? Well, it turns out a typical Facebook page, you can get about 20 a user per server, right? Like maybe 20. Maybe 30 if you really push it, maybe 40, right? Like, but it requires compute resource to, to display all the HTML and, all the other stuff, JavaScript and all kinds of, backend database accesses in order to produce that landing page that you loaded Facebook, right? And then if you start doing the calculation of, okay, then how many servers do you need if you have 100 million users, right? And the math gets big, right? Like, yeah, we need like 1 million servers, right? like
yes,
right. And that's if you get 100 paid users on a single computer. That it still need 1 million computers if you have 100 million users. And I got to imagine that AI is in the same boat.
Right. Good analogy. I agree with you. I mean, that's a fantastic analogy. So I think so it's kind of going to be interesting. So I'm not surprised by this announcement. I mean, again, it's a 4-year project.
It could be less the model generator, right, and more just the usage.
Correct.
The usage, right, to allow everybody to use AI day by day, right? Like instead of going to Google, look at how many servers Google has just to do search. But now they're like, we don't need Google search. We're going to have AI do all that, right? And so guess what? You need and you have to also keep the model up to date. So there is, model generation is obviously there as well. Yeah. But really, if you think about it, it's just how do I build a framework that every person in America can come in and, have it do AI work for you?
I mean, one way to sort of inquire into this, and I do want to spend some time on crypto. There's been a bunch of activity around crypto and Trump and
maybe we should move off of that and move on to my favorite one for the week, right? Because I know we're going for 40 minutes here. My favorite announcement, and this has just been crazy announcements, is the founder of Silk Road, right? Was let out of jail. I think he's been in jail for 10 years. I don't know his name.
Ross Ulbright.
All right. And this is the guy that, had Silk Road, which is silkroad.com, was a website that you could go to and order almost anything, right? Like drugs, prostitutes, whatever you wanted, they would send it to you, right? I think you could even hook up and find some murderers or something.
I mean,
don't know whether
basically,
it was-
I mean, I never
Right.
use. I mean,
I never used it either.
yeah, but
He was
basically,
in the news for
yeah,
everything you could get.
Bitcoin was the sort of right like transaction mechanism.
Yeah, I know you
that's
could
a-
order cocaine on it, right? Like,
Oh,
and I've
really?
heard
Wow.
that. Yeah, you could just order any drug you
Oh, my
wanted,
God.
and they would just deliver it to you, right?
Wow.
Like use Bitcoin, and they would anonymously deliver it to you, right? And there were, illegal pills you could order, non-prescription pills on it. You could do anything. It
Right.
was, and I think they did have prostitutes and other services that were also, and it was kind of like they eventually didn't like this guy, right? So they tracked him down, and he was, I think, in a foreign country, and they kidnapped him, bring him back home to U.S. and then prosecute him for offering up, these illegal services across the nation,
right,
and then put him in jail for life, right? So he had a lifetime sentence, right?
Yes.
And I can see where he was going. He was kind of a hacker, kind of cool guy, right? Doing his thing, and wasn't the best judgment.
Yes.
But how many years, you take away a site, you shut the site down, you put him in jail for some amount of time, right? Okay. Did he kill anybody? No. Did he? I don't.
Well,
think,
he facilitated it, right? That's the whole point.
well,
Yeah.
that's what I
So
said. Do you hold Google responsible if somebody, Google's the poison, that you can get, and you have to poison,
So this is interesting, right? I think basically, what kind of reasonable action have you taken to prevent something from happening? I think is what the
current
law would ask.
That's the law, and they certainly didn't take any action. They were encouraging it because they were making profit on it.
Right.
So sure.
Right. But yeah, no, that's a good one. There's another one that's something similar, right? So there's a layer 2 or a layer 1 called Tornado Cash, right? Torn Cash, which is actually a crypto mixer, what they call, which is once. So let's say somebody steals a bunch of Bitcoin from an exchange or Ethereum, they go put that money right through those wallets into Torn Cash, and it would basically the process of mixing encryption so that when it comes out, nobody knows where that money went, basically, because then you lose the tracking, essentially, which is what blockchain offers, right?
Yeah, I thought that was the whole model of blockchain.
But there are. So Torn Cash was one of the prominent mixers, and the Biden administration shut him down, shut down that particular site. I think he was in Netherlands. I forget the name of the founder. He was taken into custody
there.
And so now I think Trump, one of his executive orders, I think also sort of pardoned him or whatever, right? Acquitted him.
I think this is essentially because I think the president here in the U.S. Had been railroaded himself, right? And I think he just tends to be forgiving of people that have spent years in prison for things that were a little bit railroady.
Yeah. Right? I mean, look, with Torn Cash, irrespective of what you do with the founder, whether you put him in jail or whatever, right? But think about it, right? This is where regulation or, again, point of view comes in, which is you are a hacker in North Korea, right? You steal whatever, $200, 200 million worth of some currency, right? And you put that through the mixer and boom, right? Like it's gone. Like you have no idea. You can't be traced, right? Now, what is you as a government, right? Like, what is your position on it, right? It's also an interesting question. So, I think maybe
I think the right thing is to shut it down. I don't think there's any.
They did shut it down now, but now it's coming back up, right? Torn Cash, they're the currency is called Torn, T-O-R-N, and that's spiked big time in the last couple of days, right?
Pirate Bay was there, and then it went away, and now it's back, but it doesn't still. There are no more BitTorrents you can get, right? So the stuff comes back, but it doesn't necessarily come back the same way.
It's a good question. So we'll have to see. Do you prevent mixers in general from existing? Torn Cash is only one mixer, right? So there's it's going to be an interesting.
That is the interesting. Moral dilemma. Right?
Yeah, so Luna, was another network, right, out of South Korea, where they were allowing international, even U.S. people, I guess, to trade on the U.S. stocks, which, right, so there would be a mirror version of Tesla on the blockchain, right, that you could trade against. So you could be sitting in India or Korea or Namibia, wherever, right, and while the U.S. law doesn't allow you to do that, right? He was also, I think he's also in custody right now, and they recently extradited him from Montenegro. So, point is, I mean, a lot of these fall into gray areas. Clearly,
Right.
Gary Gensler, the SEC has taken a more harder stance in this last 4 years. Very clear, Biden, David Sachs, all these guys are going to take a more of a softer stance. So we'll have to see. I mean, I'm not saying one is wrong or the other, but it is nuanced, is the point, actually. Right? It's definitely not a black and white answer.
It's exciting times because I feel like, the announcements that they are making are, moving the needle forward, right? Like whether it's wrong way or right way, they're moving things forward. Right?
That's
and
right.
We are making investments and solving problems, and he's paying attention, or they're paying attention. Elon and Mark Zuckerberg and everybody else, Larry Ellison and SoftBank guy, they are paying attention. They are trying to move the needle, and humanity should, take advantage of that.
Right. And I mean, not to mention, I mean, I think this last piece on crypto, Trump launching his own coin. Now that's a bit of fun, right? 2 days before the inauguration, presidential, inauguration, he announced a coin, Trump coin, and so did his wife 2 days later on Sunday. So
did she do a Melania
Trump?
Or,
so I think that's called Melania, and this token is called Trump. And of course, I mean, I don't know, some crazy number. It's the market cap on Trump coin is, I believe, 7 billion or 70 billion, some crazy number. So, and that network, right? Like Trump basically holds like 80% of those coins. It's not in circulation. So 20% is what's in circulation. So there's a pretty, I mean, a big conflict of interest going on here, actually, honestly, right? Like, I mean, Brian Armstrong, Coinbase, right? All of these guys want to be on the right side of Trump, right? And get favorable regulation, etc. So, I mean, Brian Armstrong might, again, not forced, but it might be in his best interest to go list Trump coin on Coinbase, right? Like, so there's these kind of dynamics which are a little hokey.
Well, I think that Trump learned a lesson on the social platform, Truth Social, where they make it. He's on it. He does it. They get like a bunch of right-wing Republicans to get on it, and next thing you know, he's IPOing it, and he made $1 billion. Right?
Wow.
So
did they IPO that thing?
Yeah, they did.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
Yeah, they did.
Holy moly.
His net worth went up by $3 billion. Right, and so back in the time when he was having all those legal problems, he was. They were trying to make him go broke. Right. Right. I think he got a settlement by somebody that he had. And they charged him $500 million, right, to settle his defamatory case or defamation case. And I was like, oh, they're gonna bankrupt him, right? And then 3 weeks later, he IPOs Truth Social, and it's like $3 billion market cap, and he owns 70% of it. So it's kind of like, and I think he's doing stuff like that, right? Yeah. I mean, it's fine. I think it's kind of cool that they got, instead of Hillary Clinton and others taking money from foreign governments, right? These guys just do their own coin and make $1 billion on that,
right?
So they don't have to take bribes. They can just they can just make some extra. Clinton and all these other presidents, used to do book deals at the end, right? Whatever.
Right.
Like,
sure.
You do a book deal, and you make another $20 million.
And you ride off into the sunset.
You do a bunch of lectures and speeches, and then you carve out a $50 million nest egg, right? And now, if you look at it,
this guy is doing before he becomes the president, not after.
You just do a Bitcoin, right? It's no problem, and then then you do a Truth Social, and you just do some technology savvy, right? And you can't fault some of these guys for doing that, right? Like it's
I mean, it's
nice to have technology savvy people in the government. That's the nice thing.
That is great. I completely agree.
And just like, hey, it's better than them talking about whether I'm a giraffe or a monkey or whatever I am, right? Like that's what they were all talking about, which I don't have any problem with any of that. I'm kind of a libertarian, let live, but. I love the idea that these guys are talking about the kind of stuff we love, right? Let's invest in tech. And let's get ahead of China. Right? And let's have our own, Belt and Road initiative for technology.
Right? No, on balance, I mean, all of the tech guys now being in Washington, hopefully, definitely is a positive as far as technology is concerned, and probably, I mean, policies could be more, what should we say, well informed by the technological angle, I think it's definitely going to be more well informed. But I mean, conflict of interest. I mean, anyways, yeah. I mean, that's more of a
Yeah.
more political kind of question, and is there corruption in the system and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's for the public to decide, I guess.
And the only other thing
what's acceptable,
that I'm wondering is are we going to see a maturation of the models and the technology players, right? So, we have OpenAI, we have Elon Musk and his model and what he was investing in.
Right.
I think Larry Ellison plays a little bit of space too. Like they're all trying to carve out their niche with this kind of big investment. I wonder if they're going to actually consolidate to like one or two.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what I can tell, Oracle basically has this, and moat in the enterprise sort of sector where its customers, banks and large whoever, retailers, etc., can't move off of Oracle. And Oracle Cloud is a natural sort of transition or what they use. Now they need model infrastructure, AI workloads. They need to run, right? A lot of enterprises right now are definitely running workloads, moving beyond experimentation, right? So that is the Oracle angle, is my understanding. So now your question around consolidation, I think in the foundational model layer, there's Anthropic, right? There's, of course, OpenAI, there's xAI, and there's, I guess, Mistral, right? Yeah, there isn't a bunch of players, but yes, some of them are going to, are going to fall behind because they're not going to be able to raise the money necessary, right, for future model training, etc.
Right, where you start talking billions of dollars of infrastructure to be able to deliver the service. Well, what they're going to deliver is one or two models, right? I don't know if it'll be an open, environment where you can run everything. Right? Maybe not. Don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, consolidation is probably another couple of years away, perhaps. I'm going to say, right? I mean, we are seeing a lot of development on the open source side, of course, with Meta leading the charge there. But
let's get back to the 130 million active users, right? Like I think that was weekly. Right?
Are you talking about the 500 million, 300 million active users? Yeah.
Active users, 130 million daily, and 300 weekly.
WAUs. Okay. Yeah.
Do we think all of them are actually getting value, right? Like, I guess they do because you're all paying $20 a month.
No. I mean, not all of them are, right? Like, so
it's the free service.
It's a free service. It's free service. Out of that 300 WAUs,
all I got to say about this is I don't use Webvan right now, right? Webvan was the cool thing, right? Oh my God, it's brand new, and we're going to be able to deliver everything in Webvan, and everybody's investigating in .com, and then the .com bubble burst, right? And we don't have Webvan anymore. Why? Well, because turns out I know how to spell. I can write my own stuff. It's cute. It's a nice parlor trick, but and maybe it replaces Google, right? Maybe I use that for search now and some other things. I know I used it not too long ago to write up some stuff and get some answers.
Eric, don't forget code generation, right? Generation of any sort, right? Text generation, code generation, image generation, video generation. There's a lot of generation that's going on, right? So that goes way beyond the Google use case of, hey, I'm going to just search, right? Now the question is,
I did use it for financial help. If I've got X amount of options and RSUs and different pieces that are going to vest at different times, what's the best way to handle that?
Nice.
Right? It's a pretty good answer.
I mean, I used Perplexity just yesterday to understand these nuclear power stuff, right? Like Satya, right, aligned with some nuclear power provider.
Right.
Perplexity gives some really good answers just on helping me understand the landscape in 5 minutes,
Right.
So, I mean, that's a search engine use case, just to be clear, right? Perplexity.
Well, just last week, I didn't know the alphabet, and I came in and I asked her, what's the alphabet? And it taught me A, B, C, D. It was great. Otherwise, I would have never known this stuff. In the end, I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay. That's the answer to everything.
No, so here's how
it taught you about nuclear power plants, so it must be good.
No, not nuclear power plants, about all the players, right? Hey, who's publicly listed, etc., right? But let's flip the question on the other side. What does an AI bubble burst look like, right? If indeed we are in a bubble, what does a bubble burst look like, first of all, right? That's what we gotta.
This is what I'd look like. It'd be like a huge pile of hardware stacked up in the dump somewhere because the stuff became 7 years old and nobody really figured out how to make money at it, and so the stuff got old and they have to throw it away, right? So like, and I joke, but at the same time, hardware depreciates, right? What's the life of hardware? Maybe 5 years, right?
Sure.
You get 5 years out of machines and racks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you don't make money in those 5 years, because everybody's got a bubble burst,
but remember,
everybody's investing, $500 million, half a trillion dollars, right?
Yeah.
Building out all this stuff, and then it turns out that it didn't really make good images, right? Or it didn't really. Right. It was all fun and a parlor trick, but do I really need to know, or can I just read Salon.com to give me the number of nuclear power plants?
No, actually. Right. I mean, no, definitely not. I mean, Perplexity, what Perplexity did for me yesterday, unfortunately, no other, like it's hard to, any free service for me to provide that kind of information. But to go back to your point, right? We are seeing revenue generation, right? Like OpenAI is at multi-billion dollars in revenue. I don't know the exact number right now, right? I think it's 1.4 billion
and clearly VCs are willing to give these guys money, because Sam Altman didn't have $10 billion in his back pocket when he was born out of his mom's womb, right? Like they've given him that money, right?
So I mean, so I mean that's unique, of course, with Silicon Valley culture, or like this whole venture capital culture, where you underwrite losses for a long time, actually, right? So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, I think we are almost at the top of the hour.
We are at the top of the hour. We are at the top of the hour, and it has been a
fantastic.
Fun week, and I would have not predicted the number of president initiatives that were it's just like a stream one day after the next. It's like things are not slowing down, right? I got to tell you, I've been playing Call of Duty 6, right? I'm a Call of Duty fan, which is like a first-person shooter, that you're running around shooting teams. And
I saw you play once.
Yeah.
That's all I needed.
And I got to say, I play games. I'm a kind of a gamer-ish, and things move fast in that game, right? Like Call of Duty 6 is super fast. Like seems like everybody's shooting everybody. Like maybe I'm just getting older, getting slower, but like things are just moving fast in that game. It's just like it's accelerated, right? The graphics are accelerated.
Absolutely.
The sound's whizzing in a 3D. I got a living room that has surround sound, and so it's like, but it's just moving fast. I feel like AI and the news cycle and everything that's announced every time we come together, I think, it's going to slow down, right? And then
we're not seeing that yet. We're not seeing that yet. I mean, I think Trump's election has definitely made it more spicy this past week, for sure, right? And a lot of not spicy, but also a ton of news releases and so on.
I actually had a New Year's resolution to myself that I wasn't going to talk politics this year. Right? I'm just done talking politics. I want to talk tech. I don't really want to talk about politics. I want to talk tech and cool tech and robots and AI engines and everything else. But here we are.
We're talking about But
Eric,
honestly, I mean, that this is unprecedented. Seems like, right? Like technology or like business folks mingling into the U.S. government so much, right? I mean, there must have been a parallel way back with, I don't know, J.P. Morgan and Carnegie Mellon, and right, like all those folks, right?
Robert Barron,
Vanderbilt and Ford and etc. But in the last few decades, this has been it. This has been it. Yeah. So it's unavoidable in a way for us to talk about it. It's not, I'm not like particularly interested in politics or anything like that. But
it certainly is got everybody's attention, and here we are, right? And it's moving fast, and
it's only going to get interesting.
The
seems
big
like
investments are, again. Do nation states control the destiny of AI? And the answer is possibly. I hope not. Right?
I hope not. I hope not.
I think capitalist. Right?
Yes, capitalist, and I think democratic in the sense. Well, I mean, in the sense that AI is definitely getting democratized, right? Like, I mean, as compute costs keep coming down and down, right, and which is, of course, been happening all the time. People are going to use AI to do creative things. I mean, simple. Sure. I mean, that's fantastic. So, all for it. Hey,
we're at the top of the hour. It's been fun as always, Rajesh. Can't wait
until
next week. And until then, everybody have a great rest of your week.
Have a great rest of your week, guys. Thank you.